everyone. So it's been a while since I've done an update. It's been a long while. I have been wanting to wait. I feel like all of my videos, I have like no makeup on. I'm in my pajamas. It's first thing in the morning, which is fine, but I figured I might actually put makeup on one of these movies. So as you can tell, that doesn't happen that often because now we are 2 months later and I'm doing my updates. So, a lot to talk about. This video, I kind of want to talk about my experience actually at the hospital and traveling to Mexico. So I'll kind of go over that with this video. Okay, so we flew in on the 26th of June, and I want to say that that was a Wednesday. So we flew in. Our flight left sometime in the morning. I want to say around 9 o'clock. And we got there in San Diego probably around, I want to say 11, 12 o'clock. So we flew in and we were one of the last planes to arrive. Everyone else had either just gotten in or had been there for about an hour. So we got on a bus and they bussed us across the border. Crossing over the border was pretty painless. The nice thing about the OCC, Obesity Control Center, is that they hold your hand through all of it. Like they send you emails with all the information you need. During the week, it's easy to get a hold of somebody and ask questions. And they also have Facebook pages that you can get a lot of questions answered. So I felt really prepared going in, which was nice. So they had us print out all of our paperwork. They email you and have due dates of when they need things. And so by the time that the trip came up, I pretty much had everything ready and didn't feel like I felt really calm and like I was prepared going into it. So that was really nice. So me and my husband, we had all of our paperwork ready. So going across the border was really simple. And then after we crossed the border, it was about, things are a little fuzzy because it's been 2 months, but I want to say it was maybe a 20-minute drive to the hotel. We stayed at the Marriott there in Tijuana, and but they didn't take us to the hotel first. They took us straight to the clinic to do blood work. So I believe there was 3 of us women. So there were 6 of us that were there at the surgery, and I believe that the most they ever do is 6 surgeries. So there were 3 of us women who got there and did blood work. There had been a 4th woman who had already been there and done her blood work and everything, but we didn't see her until the next day. So yeah, one woman got there before we did, and she had everything ready. Then the 3 of us that got picked up at the airport, we were taken straight to OCC. They did testing, so they called us up one at a time, got our paperwork done, got payments. Then we did an EKG test. They drew our blood. We saw the dietitian I'm trying to think if she a dietitianist or a nutritionist. I can't remember what her exact title is, but she basically is the one that kind of heads that department of your pre-op weight loss, post-op weight loss. She checks in with you, make sure that you hit your weight loss, which I did, thankfully. I think I said before, there was a funeral like 1 or 2 weeks before, an unexpected funeral that I was helping with, and so there was a lot going on, and I was like, this is not the time to be trying to diet because I'm just lucky if I get to eat at this point. So 2 weeks leading up to it, I just focused on low carb. I knew that my body is capable of losing that amount of weight in 2 weeks. So I focused on low carb, getting my water in. And so basically I lived off of vegetables and beef and chicken. and making sure I had my protein in. A week before the surgery, you go on a all liquid diet. That was hard, but I did it. It's doable. You can too, and it helped with that weight loss. So going into it, my goal, if I remember right, was to be at 204 for my pre-op weight requirement was 204, and I weighed in at like 203, I believe. So I made it. I was surprised. I didn't know what my weight was until I got there. Also, I didn't know that I was going to be doing blood tests that same day. I thought I would be waking up, going to the clinic the next day, doing all of that, and then going into surgery. If you get there, and this may change, but as of right now, and from what I understand, if you get in before 12 o'clock, if your flight gets in before 12 o'clock, they will take you directly to the clinic to do all of the blood work, which means you need to be fasting, I believe, at least 12 hours before. So I think the only thing I had was water. But luckily, because of the airplane and everything, I didn't eat anything. Thank goodness, because had my blood work not come back, that would have pushed my surgery out farther. So just like make sure that if you're traveling for your surgery, or if you're going to OCC, which I recommend because I loved them, make sure that you talk to somebody, and I think I did, but I think I got different answers, if I remember right, with when to fast. I can't remember, but just make sure that if your flight is getting in early that morning, that you're just fasting, because that would really suck if you get in, they take your blood, and then like your surgery has to be postponed because your blood levels didn't come back the way they need to be. So so luckily mine were fine. Everything came back normal. So that was a little stressful, like, because I wasn't planning on that, but everything came out fine. So so they took us back, talked to the dietitianist, we got EKGs done, they took blood, our payment, paperwork, and then that took a few hours. It takes a while because they call you back one at a time. So if you think about that, if there are 5 or 6 of you there, it's going to take a while. And we only had 3 of us there. 2 of the other women hadn't quite gotten in yet. And then one of the other women was there early before us, and she had already gotten everything done. So it took a while for even just 3 of us. So while we were there hanging out, we went across the street and we got some electrolyte water. They have a pharmacy on the corner across the street that you can get electrolyte water for, and we also got some drinkable yogurt because we had been fasting. We were pretty hungry, so we found some low sugar, low carb drinkable yogurt, and then the electrolyte drinks. You're going to be sipping on the electrolyte drinks, for a while. So like find some that you like. So I was told that those were cheaper across the street. So we did that while we were hanging out waiting. Then they took us to the Marriott, and we kind of settled in. The first thing I did when I got there was eat some beef broth and their homemade popsicles. So I have heard that I've either heard people say that they're amazing and they taste amazing, and I've heard other people say that they were so gross. I think it depends on who's making them, maybe, because when I got there, they were fine. Like, I ordered the beef broth and everyone else was like, oh my gosh, don't get the beef broth. It was so gross the other day. And then I was like, it tastes fine for me. Maybe I'm weird. Somebody else tried it again and they were like, oh, this totally tastes different. So overall, the broth was fine. The popsicles were my favorite just because I prefer cold over warm. They give you, I think, 3 bowls of broth, chicken or beef, and then like 2 or 3 popsicles and so many bottles of water. And then my husband just ate there at the restaurant. Food was okay. I mean, honestly, I didn't really care because I was there for the surgery. So, But yeah, so they have a pool and a jacuzzi. I went out and took advantage of the hot tub while I could because I wouldn't be able to take a bath or sit in water for a while after the surgery. So we went and hung out. Me and my husband went for walks. Yeah, and then that night, I had to stop taking water and food by mouth by, I want to say 10 o'clock. So I tried to get really hydrated before that, drink a lot of water, electrolytes, broth, like take advantage of that. And then 10 o'clock, I had to nothing by mouth, no water, no food, nothing. And then I think I took something to help me sleep. So surprisingly, my nerves, I wasn't really nervous. I fell asleep pretty easily. That's not my norm. Usually things like that, like the anticipation, anxiety. But I went to sleep and I slept okay that first night. The night before, I had everything like packed up, ready for my stay. I think I overpacked just because I didn't know what to expect. So I had like my nightgown. I had some like skin stuff for my face, for washing my face, glasses. If you wear contacts, make sure you bring glasses because you cannot have contacts in your eyes for surgery. So make sure you have glasses or a spare of contacts. What else did I do? Change of underwear. I was really paranoid about having an accident during the surgery because they don't catheterize you, at least not at this location, which is a good thing. It's not the funnest to have a catheter, but I was a little nervous. So yeah, I think I might have overpacked, but I mean, it was fine. I rather overpack than get there and not have something I needed. So yeah, so I packed everything. So all I had to do was wake up, put on some clothes, and we could head out. So I believe I woke up at 5 a.m, got everything put together, and then 5, I think we had to meet in the lobby around 5:30, if I'm remembering right. I believe I woke up at 5, met in the lobby at 5:30. Everyone else was there. The 2 women that had come in later were there, and we were waiting for our bus to get there and to transport us to the clinic. I believe it's about 15 minutes between the clinic and the Marriott. So they told us as long as so first people to get in were patients, and then if there was any room, partners could get in too. I can't remember if my husband came. I don't know that they had room. So I think that they shuttled us to the clinic first, and then they brought partners after. If I'm remembering, I can't remember. I'll have to ask him. So we got to the clinic. It was pretty quiet and dark. We sat in the lobby for a little bit, and then we kind of saw as the previous night, the people who had just gotten their surgery and were getting discharged were coming out of the clinic. So they were like checking out. We were I was kind of gauging how they were doing because I was like, I wonder how it's going to go after. Okay. So I was kind of gauging to see how they were doing because I didn't really know what to expect after. I had heard the gas pain is painful. Now, when you hear about gas pain, it's not like gas pain that we're usually used to. What that is after surgery is they pump you with air to kind of open everything up so they can do surgery. And then afterwards, that air kind of gets trapped. And it's, from what I've heard, it's more like you burp it out. Like, it's not the kind of gas that smells and is embarrassing. Like, it's not that. It's like the air gas in like your stomach and your chest. For me, it was more upper body pain. So I was kind of gauging them to see. Some of them were doing great. Some of them were in pain. A lot of them looked tired. You know, they'd just gone through surgery. So understandably so, they were getting discharged. And then as soon as they were discharged, they called us up one at a time. And my theory was that they would take us back and do surgeries as they had called us up the day before, which actually was correct, which was good because I was second in line. We did, I think, meet the other woman at that time. She was the first one, and they had done labs and everything. And then she had actually stayed the night there at the hospital because they were just first thing in the morning going to do her surgery. So she was all ready for surgery as soon as she woke up that morning. So I can't remember if we met her then or not, but she got in, they did her surgery pretty quickly. And then they called up the second person, and she went back, and they got her in her gown. And then shortly after that, they called me back. I went back to a room. I was really impressed with their facility. So the floor that you're on that you do the surgery is just OCC. Like, they just do surgery there at that clinic. It's not a hospital. You're not in there with sick people, like, which I liked because sometimes in hospitals you have issues with like staph or MRSA infections. You get some of these super bugs that are hard to get rid of that can come in, or you may just be there around other people who can be sick. So I liked that it was just strictly for OCC patients. And we were on the floor all by ourselves, and the rooms looked similar to what you would experience in a hospital room. So everything was great there. And then, so they took me back, got me in a gown. I removed everything. I had these like cute little disposable shorts, if I remember right. I made sure to go to the bathroom before, I think, I'm trying to remember the timeline. We kind of went in, we got pictures. I was kind of hanging out, talking to my husband. They came in like one by one, hooked me up. Like, a nurse came in, introduced herself, hooked me up to an IV. And then the doctor, the actual doctor, Dr. Ortiz, came in, introduced himself, asked if we had questions. I didn't really have any questions. I'd already done a lot of my research. So we talked to him a little bit. Then there was an assistant doctor that came in. The anesthesiologist came in. So they all just kind of came in, talked to me, told me some information, answered my questions. Then they brought this tray of all these massive syringes. I was like, holy crap. Like, those are going in my IV, right? Like, you're not injecting that with me, because I'm not kidding you. Like, they were here. I gotta put my phone down a second. The syringes they brought in, and this could have just been me, but like, they seemed like they were like that long, full of liquid, long needle. I was like, there's no way you're pumping bodies with that. And so I believe it was the nurse that came in, and she's like, oh no, like, this is going in your IV. Stuff like that just fascinates me. I asked a lot of questions, like, what is this? What is that? Like, what does it do? I was just kind of curious. So the nurse was great. Everyone speaks English there really well, so you can understand what they're saying. Like, you can ask questions. So, and they were all very informative, very professional. So the nurse just kind of explained what everything was that was going to my EV. One of them was an antibiotic that they put in. One of them was to help with blood clots after surgery and during surgery. They gave me an anti-nausea. I don't know if that was in a syringe or not. I can't remember. I believe it was. So anti-nausea, one for blood clots, the antibiotic. There might have been a few others. And then they gave me the cocktail. And I have never been on anything really other than like Loratab. Like, I have very minimal experience with prescription drugs or controlled substances, or controlled prescriptions. So they gave me, oh my gosh, I'm trying to remember what it is. It's basically like a anti-anxiety relaxant. Oh, what is it called? Somebody on here can answer that, because it's very common. Like, if you're like having anxiety. Can't remember what it's called. Anyways, I will think of it. But they gave me this like chalky cocktail, and they said, okay, take this. And I remember drinking it, and I think I tried to go to the bathroom before that, because I knew I'd probably not be able to go to the bathroom after that because I'd probably be too out of it. Okay, so after that, I remember talking to my husband, and then all of a sudden I started feeling drunk. And I remember telling him, like, I feel a little drunk now. Like, this is kind of weird. And then, so for me, like, if I start feeling, and when I mean drunk, like, not a little drunk, like a lot drunk, when I start feeling like I'm losing control of my body or having kind of like an out of body type experience, I start to panic a little bit. So I remember feeling a little panicky and like, oh my gosh, this is intense. This is intense feeling. And then kind of like calming myself down, like, it's okay, like, it'll be fine. And then saying a few things to him and then passing out and falling asleep. The next thing I remember is somebody touching me opening my eyes, and there's a wheelchair in the doorway, and them saying it's time, and I'm like, wait, what? I just went to sleep, and now you're taking me to surgery? Okay. And like thinking that was probably a good thing that I had something, because I would probably be starting to freak out a little bit. So I kind of like that somewhat like a little bit drunk type feeling, like kind of a little bit swaying, you know. So I like tried to get in the wheelchair, and they kind of helped me up, and then they wheeled me around the corner, and I remember seeing one of the other women was on a bed coming out of her surgery. Okay, life at my house, kids keep interrupting. Anyways, so I just remember being wheeled over, and there was the woman that was scheduled to have surgery before me was laying there kind of recovering from surgery. And then I think they asked me a few questions, showed me some paperwork, again, just to kind of verify who I was, what I was getting done. You know, they kind of do that in hospitals. And so then they wheeled me into the room, had me lay up on the table, and the anesthesiologist introduced herself again. And I remember looking up at her and thinking, oh my gosh, she's so pretty. And being like, well, I'm glad that I have a beautiful anesthesiologist being my anesthesiologist, because she just looks so nice and pretty. Like, nice as in like a nice person. I don't know. That's just what I remember thinking, like, oh, like, yeah. So I laid on the table, and then they explained, like, okay, now we're going to put something in your IV. And then, like, you'll start to feel yourself to go to sleep. And I remember thinking, like, it hasn't set in. It hasn't set in yet. When is it supposed to set in? Oh my gosh, I'm going to be. So, so I kept thinking, oh my gosh, this isn't working. This isn't working. When is it going to kick in? And then, like, starting to kind of panic in my head, like, what if it doesn't ever kick in? And then, like, or what if I'm one of those people that is, like, awake for all of it? And then sure enough, like, within a second after thinking that, I was out. And the next thing I remember is laying on that table outside of the hall, and then saying, you're done. And I remember my husband standing next to me, and the first thing I want to do is look and see the incisions. And in my head, I'm thinking, like, I know what I'm doing. Like, I'm fully, and I'm in control of my body. Like, I'm not going to touch anything, but I just want to see the incisions. So I lifted up my gown, and I was like, I want to see the incisions. And then the nurse was like, no, don't touch. I'm like, okay, fine. Because she probably didn't know what I was going to do. But I guess in my head, like, I needed to see the incisions to see it actually happen, just because it was just so crazy how quickly everything went. I mean, I took the anti-anxiety, passed out, went to sleep, woke up, got wheeled over into the surgery room. They put stuff in my IV. Oh, there's a gorgeous anesthesiologist, and I'm out, and now I'm being woken up, and everything went great, and now they're wheeling me to my room. And it was just kind of crazy how quickly things went. And then They nicely let me sleep for a long time. So, like I said, I got there at 5:30 in the morning. I think my husband said I went into surgery around 9. I was kind of out of it, so I'm not sure exact time, but I think it was around 9. The surgery itself doesn't take very long at all. And then I was asleep. Bless my husband, sat there with me the whole time while I'm just asleep. And I don't remember waking up at all until 4. And they were saying, okay, visitors are getting ready to go home. You need to get up and walk. So they let me sleep, luckily, from the time I got out of surgery, which I'm guessing would be around 11 or 12, and then let me sleep that whole time until around 4. And then we had to get up and start walking. That was probably the least fun part of all of this because I just wanted to sleep. I was so tired. So, yeah, that is basically how my experience went with the surgery itself. In my next video, I'll talk about kind of like recovering, that kind of like what happened with recovering and my experience with that. So stay tuned.